Is this in your eyes right now? I mean, I know we're in the first week of April, second week of April. Is this in your eyes right now the best position group on the team right
Yes.
now?
Yeah. I won't even hesitate. Yes, it is.
Paid all who enter and beware this podcast. That's right. This is the Paid Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer, and of course, I'm here with Kevin Flaherty. We're brought to you by Emprise Bank, your partner in all things possible. Member FDIC. Today, we're going to continue our discussion of KU football position breakdowns. We've got a very exciting position group, one of Kevin's favorites, I think, that we're going to be talking about here today. So we got that to look forward to on the show. By the way, if you have missed any of our most recent KU basketball portal updates, you can check those out on Floyd Badunga coming back, on Jaden Dawson and Trey White. You can find those shows on our feed, on our audio platforms, or on our YouTube channel at Kansas Jayhawks KCSN. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. You can subscribe on audio, Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube as well. Thank you so much to those that have already done so. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your ongoing support, and we appreciate you being here hanging out with us. So, one quick note on the portal is we're probably going to talk more portal updates later in the week. The dead period for visits for recruits that are in the transfer portal, that's going to end coming up later this week. So if you're still wondering where the movement's going to continue to come from Kansas, probably can expect that to pick up again towards the end of the week when teams can start to look at having visits again. Kansas, you can still contact players, and there have been players still in contact with Kansas and vice versa over the course of the dead period. But in terms of maybe some real actual movement in terms of visits or more commitments possibly for Kansas, you probably expect that to start to ramp back up again later in the week. So we're going to talk about that later in the week, so be on the lookout for that show as well. But as I said, today we're going to continue our position breakdown over the course of KU football in the spring. And again, this is a position group that I think Kevin is salivating over the possibility to talk about. And that is the defensive tackle room, defensive tackles. This is maybe the best group on the team, I think. I think you've suggested that as well, Kevin, and that's due to the depth of experience they have. They've got two guys coming back that have been starters now really for the past 2 seasons with DJ Withers and Tommy Dunn. Those guys are roommates. They're really tight. They're always great to talk to. We're going to hear from one of them later on in the show as well. So stay tuned for that. And when you have two guys like that have the wealth of experience that they have coming back, that really sets the stage for the entire room. You add in Kenean Caldwell, who Jim Panagos, the defensive tackles coach, talked about quite a bit. We're going to hear from him a bit more later on in the show as well. And then you sprinkle in a guy who has experience at Kansas, but wasn't on the roster last year, and that's Gage Keys coming back to join this team as well. Kevin, how do you assess this room? It's a room that you're high on, I know. What's kind of your general thoughts on where this group is at right now in the spring?
Look, usually when you have trouble figuring out starters, it's because there's uncertainty, right? Like you don't know what's coming back. Guys are in a competition. In this case, I think Tommy Dunn and DJ Withers would probably be one of the better defensive tackle duos in the Big 12, except that one of those two might not wind up starting, Nick, because you've got Blake Harrell, kind of wedging himself in there. You've got Gage Keys, who's going to get plenty of snaps and is a good player. You've got Kenean Caldwell, who, for my money, is one of the better stories on the team in terms of coming in as a two-gap defensive tackle for those of you who aren't, huge into all that. Basically, you're in charge of being a heads up on a guy, and you're in charge of the gap to one side of him and the other side of him. And so it's more important to sort of be wide and not be able to, not allow people to move you around. The Lance Leipold staff comes in. It's a one gap system. You got to be quick now. Instead of playing on one guy, you're playing in the gap and you're trying to get through it. And so it was something that didn't necessarily fit his skill set as much. He's put in so much effort to change his body, to do all the things necessary to put himself in the rotation. That's 5 guys. And then you mentioned we're going to hear from Jim Panagos here in a little bit. He mentioned that Marcus Calvin is probably going to steal 10 or so plays a game. And so when you look at where you want to be at the defensive tackle room in terms of having guys on the front end who are really good, but also having depth so they don't wear down. I really think this defensive tackle group has it all and could go 6 deep in terms of having 6 quality players that they feel good rotating through in a big game.
Yeah, something that really stood out from Panagos, and you alluded to it, was his comment about there not being a depth chart. And
Yep.
I think if there's one position group where you actually would prefer that to be the case, it's this room, right?
Yep.
Because you want those guys to stay fresh. You want to have fresh bodies on the field at all times on the interior of the defensive line, and that's critical. And it seems like KU is really comfortable and really confident with what they have in terms of the depth and in terms of being able to rotate multiple guys onto the field. The other thing you mentioned is that maybe kind of convolutes this conversation a little bit is you talked about the different schemes
Yep.
of guys and what KU's done. We don't entirely know exactly what DK McDonald is going to want to do
Yep.
specifically in terms of how he wants to deploy his defense, and that affects the defensive line, obviously, and the defensive tackles. Like you mentioned, you can have guys that can be, if you're going to run more of a 3-down lineman, you want maybe a bigger guy like Kenean Caldwell who can take up space. If you're going to go with 4 guys and you're going to have 2 tackles out there that can maybe get through gaps, then maybe you look at DJ Withers and Tommy Dunn, right? And so scheme is going to impact as well what this group looks like. And unfortunately, we don't really have too much insight on that right now with exactly what DK McDonald wants to do, but still to have that ability to have different guys that can do different things is also I think something that really stands out. And I wanted to really highlight DJ Withers and Tommy Dunn here because Jim Panagos, and we'll hear from him later on what he said specifically, but to kind of paraphrase him a little bit, he specifically mentioned those 2 guys as he wants them to be dominant players.
Yeah.
And they have been in this program for multiple years now. They have a wealth of experience, and Panagos himself said that he's the hardest on those 2 guys because he wants them to reach the heights that they can reach and be the dominant players that they can be. I mean, what is the height maybe for those 2 guys in your eyes? What is the ceiling maybe for those 2 players? Are we talking, all Big 12 team, first team, second team? Like, what do you think those 2 guys could do if they were able to reach those heights in their senior seasons?
Yeah, I think if they play well, they've got the ability to be all Big 12 guys. And as crazy as it sounds, I think Blake Harrell has that ability as well. And I think that's the thing that makes it challenging to project is if Blake Harrell does beat out one of those guys, it says a lot more about Blake Harrell than it does about either of those guys. Also, Nick, we don't know which one he would beat out, right? Like if it would be DJ Withers or Tommy Dunn. And like you said, there's different scheme things that they could do. Blake Harrell is a good pass rusher, is a defensive tackle. So maybe you try to put him in, on 3rd and 8 and do some different things situationally with his skill set. But I loved it when we talked to Matt Gildersleeve, and he was talking about Blake Harrell and said, you've got Tommy Dunn and DJ Withers as your potential starters. He says, Blake Harrell does not accept that answer. He wants to be the guy. And then you add in a guy like Gage Keys, who I thought, was maybe playing his best football at KU toward the end of his season at KU before heading off to Auburn. If he can kind of recapture that form, and then we talked about Kenean Caldwell and Marcus Calvin, you bring in a guy like Cheese Hammond in the summer from the high school ranks, and Cheese is a guy that's going to be more, it's going to take him a little while to add the weight and different things like that. Bonus, we have a conversation with Katie O'Connor, the team nutritionist, about a lot of things. But one of the things that I asked her about, Nick, was basically what these guys have to do because Kansas recruits them on the smaller end. Kansas is not going to get a 300-pound guy who runs 4.8 right out of high school, right? And so your goal is, as Panagos said in his interview, you want to get guys that are athletic, that are twitchy, and then you work to add the weight to get them to the size that you want. They've done a good job with those guys so far, and one of the things I'm excited about with Cheese in particular is I think he fits that exact same archetype of a DJ Withers, of a Blake Harrell, and guys like that came in a little bit smaller, added weight and strength, and wound up being where they are right now.
You teased a little bit there. We also do have an exclusive interview coming up with Katie O'Connor. Kevin had a chance to talk with Katie O'Connor, who, as you said, is the team nutritionist. We talk about Matt Gildersleeve as being sort of the the man behind the scenes that really drives the strength and conditioning of this team, right? Maybe not a coach or assistant that everyone knows or recognizes, but has a major impact. To take that a step further, Katie O'Connor, I think, is the same way, right? I think with what she does behind the scenes, helping these players, and again, like you highlighted specifically in the D tackle room, where you do want to make sure that guys are adding weight and staying and playing at that weight level, right? So, looking forward to that conversation as well coming up later on in the show. Let's talk a little bit more about Gage Keys for a moment.
Yeah.
He, as you said, was at Kansas, ends up leaving and going to Auburn. We're going to hear from Gage Keys later on the show as well. He was actually, I thought, very candid about his process of both leaving Kansas the first time, going to Auburn, and then maybe having this realization of, man, at Kansas, there's some things that they do really well, and I miss that. And then Jim Panagos also kind of talked about welcoming him back. That's just a great piece to add, right? I think if you could draw up the perfect transfer portal addition to add to this room, it's Gage Keys. And not just because of the fact that he already has the experience of playing at Kansas specifically, but also he's now a veteran player, and he's been through it a little bit. He understands. And I got the sense from kind of hearing him speak that he's also humble, I think, a little bit now, to where he's willing to accept whatever role he can get to help benefit the team. I don't think there's any selfishness about it at all. I think he's very much excited to just be a part of this team, be back with this team, and have a chance to contribute to them achieving their goals.
Yeah, I think that it's about as good an argument you can make for having good culture, right? I think there are a couple of those things. One of them we've talked about on the show quite a bit is Kansas not having the season that it wanted to a year ago, and yet still having the culture to sort of rebound and win those 3 straight games over ranked teams when I think everybody had kind of shoveled the dirt on them. That says a lot about the culture and how they kept their noses down and continued to work. I think it says a lot about the culture that you have somebody leave, and maybe even a little bit of a grass is greener type situation, and comes to realize, like, hey, man, like they're pretty good. I had it pretty good over there, and he wanted to come back. And also the way that you were able to leave things with him and the way that he was able to leave things with you, that it is an easy process to welcome him back. It is a good fit. And so I do think that that's yet another sort of check mark in the Lance Leipold box of, the culture that they've been able to build in Lawrence, and specifically in this defensive tackle room. But yeah, to your point too, I think Gage is unique in this room a little bit because of the type of player he is. He's a little bit different than the other guys in terms of the ways he can really make himself slender when he's getting through a gap. I think despite the fact that he didn't have like big sack numbers at Kansas, I think he put some good things on tape in terms of rushing the passer, where you felt like, hey, if this guy sticks around, those sacks are probably going to uptick a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me at all, Nick, to see Gage Keys wind up leading this group in sacks this year. That would not surprise me. Even if he winds up being, let's say, 4th in terms of snap count, I think it's something that he does really well, and it's something that I'm excited to see him do again this year.
Yeah, that's a very interesting tidbit that you mentioned about him possibly leading this unit in sacks. That would be, I think, something you would really like to see. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. I mentioned it at the top of the show. Is this in your eyes right now? I mean, I know we're in the first week of April, second week of April. Is this in your eyes right now the best position group on the team right now?
Yeah. I won't even hesitate. Yes, it is. I think there are a few other really good position groups. I think obviously quarterback, where you've got Jalen Daniels, then you've got an experienced backup who's had some time in Cole Ballard. You've got 2 good young quarterbacks that you're developing. That quarterback room is about right where you want it, right? In terms of that running back room, when you go ahead and you have Daniel Highshaw, you add a running back in Leishon, who's, rushed for over 800 yards at Iowa. You had a Harry Stewart who's, taking another step forward, and Johnny Thompson being a little bit of a different guy. That's a strong group, but I don't know that any group has the combination of, hey, this is a potential all Big 12 guy, having multiples of those guys, and then also being as deep as this defensive tackle room is. I do think it's the best position on the football team. And one other thing, Nick, before but before we wind up going to break, it's interesting how often you hear other position groups talking about this group. When you talk to the offensive linemen, it's, oh man, that defensive tackle group is really good. When you talk to the linebackers or the defensive backs, it's, hey, we're still figuring things out. We're figuring leadership stuff out, but it really helps us do our jobs when you got those guys in front of us playing the way that they do. And Lance Leipold has said that the defense has played pretty well this spring. And I like to think that a big part of that is probably because of how good this defensive tackle group is that's allowed other guys to kind of play fast and physical behind them.
Well, let's hear from a couple of those guys. We're going to have some interviews coming up and later on in the show. Jim Panagos, Katie O'Connor, the team nutritionist, and a couple of players, Gage Keys, Tommy Dunn, and Kenean Caldwell. We're going to hear from all those guys coming up next. But first, this gives us a chance to tell you more about Home Field Apparel. You can shop Home Field Apparel at homefieldapparel.com. And as always, use that promo code PAY24 for 15% off your first order. You can shop 40-plus Kansas items. Today I'm rocking the I call this the baseball tee, I guess. It's got the cursive Jayhawks on it. Shout out to KU Baseball. They are finally ranked, Kevin. KU Baseball, finally ranked. So go out and support them. I'm really excited for the KU K-State series coming up in about 2 weeks from now.
Number one in the Big 12.
Yes, also first in the Big 12 after the sweep of UCF, first in the Big 12. So really exciting times, and you'll absolutely want to support them with some of the best college gear around, and that's at homefieldapparel.com. So use that promo code PAID24, 15% off your first order. Once again, that's a PAID24, 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Let's get to some interviews with KU defensive tackles coming up next.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Are you ready to win real money this March? Struggling to choose which team will pull off an upset? Well, forget all about the teams. All you need to focus on are player stats to rack up big cash prizes with DraftKings Pick 6. And when it comes to massive payouts, DraftKings dunks all over the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. You can track your picks for a shot to win huge cash prizes. And it's really as simple as that, folks. You can turn your basketball knowledge into cash today. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
This is the Paid Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer alongside Kevin Flaherty. If you have not done so, please subscribe on our audio platforms, Apple and Spotify, and on our YouTube channel at Kansas Jayhawks KCSN as well. Drop a comment, drop a like, do all that great stuff. We've had some fantastic commenters on our shows, which reminds me real quickly, Kevin, before we do get into these interviews, we had a comment on YouTube asking about what Kansas might be looking for in the spring transfer portal, just generally from on the football side. I think you and I are both in agreement. Number one on the priority list is probably an offensive lineman of some sort, maybe a tackle or guard. And then number two, you look at maybe the cornerback room. We talked about the cornerbacks earlier in the spring, and You've got some decent depth there, but maybe adding another experience piece there. Kansas is probably going to have a chance to add 1 to 2, maybe 3 players in the spring transfer portal. I'll just be honest. It's a very, very not very clear situation, I should say, because you've got the ongoing court stuff happening with so on and so forth, scholarship numbers and all kinds of stuff. So it's a bit convoluted as to how many spots Kansas is going to have versus how many spots they can use and so on and so forth. But I am under the impression that I think Kansas might be looking for maybe 1 or 2 players. And I think tackle is certainly a top priority. Offensive tackle, certainly the top priority right now.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that. I think Calvin Clements has gotten great reviews through the spring at left tackle. And, when we talked to Daryl Agpalsa, one of the things that he said was he was like, Calvin's my left tackle. He'd stick that guy out there the next few years. So I think they feel good on that spot. Nolan Gorska getting a little banged up, it kind of stinks for him because Nolan had a chance to, if he had a really big spring, kind of maybe solidify that spot. You brought in Jack Tanner, from Tulsa, competing at that spot too. But if you can find sort of a plug and play guy who's got experience that you can throw into that competition where either that guy wins the job or you feel really good about whoever does, whether that's Nolan Gorska, Jack Tanner, I think that's probably priority 1 at this point. And then, like you said, at cornerback, you've got DJ Graham and Jalen Todd. After that, you've got Jaleel Hurley, redshirted, didn't play at Alabama. You've got Austin Alexander, redshirted a year ago. And so if you want to add somebody who's got more snaps to that group, and I would imagine you would, I think that would be priority 2, like you said.
That question came from John on our YouTube channel, so thanks so much to John. I know he's big on KU, so really appreciate you, John, for continuing to support us talking KU football. Let's continue that conversation, but this time let's get a chance to hear from some of the players and coaches themselves. We'll start with Jim Panagos, the defensive tackle coach for this group. Quick little disclaimer here. Jim Panagos, I believe he's from, is he from New Jersey? Is that right? I think he's from the Northeast. So he can be a bit difficult to understand at times. I'll just leave it at that. Me being a Midwest guy, those accents sometimes gets me. So I'll just sort of put that disclaimer ahead of it. But here's what defensive tackle coach Jim Panagos had to say about his group and more.
He said that one of the things he liked most about Blake Harold is he doesn't accept being the number 3 or number 4 guy in that rotation, that he feels like he should be the guy, and it's added a level of competition to the room. How has that played out this spring with Blake Harold?
Well, he's on a mission, and what he's doing now is creating great competition for Tommy and DJ. And right now, when you get great competition, great things happen. Because right now, I don't know who's going to start. That's a good problem to have. So we're going to find out who starts at game 1. We'll know who starts at game 1. But right now, they're all practicing really hard. Really happy with them. Really pleased with Kenean Caldwell. He's got a great story. He's someone who really, for 2 or 3 years, had his role limited a little bit. And instead of leaving, going to portal, all he's done is work really, really hard. And he's playing really good football. And like I said last season, we need seniors to have the best season. As I said about Cal Teller, and now we need Kenean Caldwell to have a great senior season. But yeah, you are right. Blake is on a mission to do things here, which is great. And Tommy and DJ see that. So we have great competition.
How much does that mean for a guy like Kenean? Comes in to be sort of a 2-gap tackle. There's a coaching change, and he goes through the work and finds a spot in the rotation and kind of works his way in.
That tells you about his character. Because most kids would have ran away. And he kept on fighting, kept on working. I think a perfect example is last season after the Illinois game. Hey, Coach, come to my office. I want to play. What can I really do? And we talked about a couple of things he needed to focus on. And he kept working, and then Colorado had a big sack. And against Baylor last year, he played really, really well. So I think his confidence, and he's pushing, and we're all pushing right now.
What were some of those things you highlighted with them during that meeting that you needed to improve on?
I think we just talked about lateral quickness and pad level. Those are the 2 things, lateral quickness and pad level.
And with Blake then, how have you seen, specifically with his body, transform as he's gotten another kind of winter in the weight program?
I think what Blake is really heavy-handed. So he creates unbelievable knockback and separation. And he has the great ability to get off blocks. There's a couple of things he does during spring, even players are like, oh, wow, look at this. This is really, really special. And that what makes, he's got great knockback. He's got great hand placement. His hands are always inside. and he's causing great separation so he can go off blocks. So he's working really, really hard. Like he said, he's really coachable, and the best thing about him, he just works. He says about 3 things, but he just keeps working and working and working, and we're really pleased with him.
Hey Jim, we've talked to so many coaches that have all the new guys coming in, and you're the opposite. You have a lot of guys back. Has that been a luxury having so many guys back?
No, because I think what it does is creating competition because they all want to play. Right now, we have 6 guys that are competing for jobs, which is really, really a good thing. And as long as they keep working, I told the players today, this is our mission. You have 15 days of spring ball to get better. And then we got 7 weeks, which is 50 days to improve. And then we got 30 more practices. So as long as we keep getting better every day, keep improving what we need to get better, 1% better every day, we'll be ready to go for that first game. So that's what we've been working on here. But competition is the greatest answer in life. It cures all problems.
Jim, with those vets, do you feel like they have a sense of leadership team-wise too?
I think they're learning. I think we've been really fortunate here. Like in 2022, we had Sam Burke, great leader. 2023, Devin Phillips ran the room. 24, Cal Teller ran the room. Right now, there's not one individual. I think they're all learning to be more vocal because they had 3 dominant guys every year to lead. So now they're learning. They're learning when to say it, how to say it, why to say it. So it's a lot of those kind of conversations with me one-on-one. Say, all right, what do you think you should have said here? Why am I saying this? Maybe you should say this next time. So it's me teaching them how to do that. That's a great question.
What did you think about the opportunity to get Gage back, and what's it been like having him back now?
That's great. I have a great relation with Gage, and we needed a need. Players wanted him back. He left the right way. We wanted him back. He came back, and I was very direct with Gage. I said, Gage, you didn't play football last season. You're going to start at the bottom of the depth chart, and you're going to work. And all he's done here is work. He's happy to be back here. He really appreciates Kansas. He's honored to be back, so we expect big things from him in his role.
How do you think it can help him that he's had the perspective of spending a year elsewhere?
I think he knows why we do things here. I think he knows how we care about the players. I think he knows about the resources here, and I think he sees this is the place he wanted to be. We want players to be at Kansas.
With Gage, you mentioned that the players wanted him back. Is that something that you talked to them about, like when Gage is in the portal, or is that something you got a sense for kind of after he was back and around guys?
When he entered the portal, we decided we wanted to bring an experienced, another need defensive inside player in here. Reach out to the players. Players came to me and said, Coach, I know we want to bring one in here. What about him? Because it's about a fit in the room. Okay, my position is a rotation position. So we need to keep rotating players. So we want someone who can fit the room. Does that make sense, guys? We're looking for a guy who can fit in the room. Right? We believed that he's the perfect fit for us, what we're doing this year.
How about Marcus Galvin?
Working really hard. He's by far, the amount of time he puts in this building with me and Coach Zach is simply amazing. He's working, he's working, he is working, he's working. And he is on a projection to play about 10 plays this year. So I'm really pleased with him, and he's really, the thing about Marcus is really coachable. And I tell Marcus all the time, football is the greatest sport in the world because it doesn't care how big you are. It really doesn't care how long you are. You know, if you're 6'4" and 5'11", it cares about how you work. And I know this, if you work really, really hard, you're going to have success. It's just when will that happen, right? Everyone's journey is different. Blake's journey is going to be different than Marcus's journey, right? Different people, different person, but that's what he's working. I'm really pleased with his performance.
I think you said Gage left the right way. What does that mean to you? Did that matter in bringing him back?
I think everything matters. Like you said, we had a need. Okay, we went and looked at the portal, and he was in the portal. We reached out to him. I had a really long conversation with him. And you guys know I'm pretty direct, right? So I'm sure he wasn't really happy with that. But I told him, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we need. This is what you got to do. You got to work yourself back in the team and work hard. And he's done that. And I'm really happy he's back here. I have a great relationship with him. So I'm really happy he's back here.
With Gage, was there any sense that he's looking at other schools, or was it kind of okay, he wants to immediately come back to Kansas?
When he hit the portal, when he called me and left a message, Coach, I'm in the portal, can you speak? He had no idea we were looking for an inside player. I said, we're looking for an inside player. And it was very, very, I think it was perfect. Like I said, it was a perfect fit.
Someone asked a little bit about this earlier, but the role of having one of the most experienced position groups on the team, do you feel like the defensive tackle have to occupy, like, do they have to play at a higher standard? Do they have to set a standard for the rest of the defense because so many other groups have so many new players?
I think we're the engine of the defensive line, are the engine of the program. But the best thing about right now is they're all trying to get playing time. There is no depth chart right now. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's really competition right now. And that's what the key is right now. We have great competition in the room. Only competition is great because of what? It makes them really lock in, focus. When they see this guy's making a play, well, I better make a play. I gotta make a play, he's making a play. So that's what the beauty is right now. That's what in the room is. So it's a little bit different. Sometimes you have experience in the room, you know who the stars are, you know the back of it. Right now, we have no idea who the starter is, which is a good problem to have.
The new coach, new defense coordinator, DK McDonald, how do you see your guys buying into the new DC?
I think DK's got great personality, can relate to the players. He had a relationship with the players last season, so it's been a smooth transition. They're happy. So I think it's pretty easy right now. When you have a relation with players, it's easy. It's easy to push players when you have a relation with players. I'm hard on players, but I have a relation with players. You can push them as long as you have a relation with them. You have to show that if you have to care.
DJ was a guy that was a high school defensive end, bulked up,
Yeah.
had a lot of success. Blake Harold kind of following in a similar path. How much does it help the young guys who come in, who maybe have to follow a similar path, to have somebody that they can point to and say, hey, this guy did the same exact thing that I'm doing. I can kind of follow this guy and follow in his.
I think when players see another player have success, they're really curious why they're having success. And that's the most important thing. Is player success. Right now, we have guys come in and we look for a certain defensive line. You know what I'm saying? By the time you bring these big human beings in, they got to lose 30 pounds and put on 15 pounds, and it's like a 2.5-year process. We're looking for explosive, twitchy, athletic defensive linemen that can get bigger and get stronger and get more explosive and all that stuff. So I think it's great because I think they know the program works. Players want to know, can you help me? Football players want to know, can I, coach, help me get my success? So it's easy to show them, hey, this is what you've done, this is the plan for nutrition, this is the plan in the weight room, this is the plan we have for your coaching, and they see players have success. Oh, cool, it's called buy-in. Does that make sense?
What's the next step for DJ and Tommy?
To be dominant every play. That's the next step, to be dominant every play. I'm probably harder than them than anybody else in the program.
Do you see that in them?
Yeah, I do. But right now their standards is like my standards, and they're really competitive and they're working hard. And they know this is it. They know this is the last season. And they're excited. They're playing with great energy, great effort. They're playing with toughness. So this is exactly where we need to be their senior year. Like I told you before, we need our seniors to have great senior years. Any team that's successful have great senior play and leadership. So right now we have Tommy, we have DJ, Gage, Kenean, we have Dean Miller, we have Fink. We need them to have a great senior season. That's the key to have success, in my opinion.
That was defensive tackle coach Jim Panagos talking all things DTs. Really great conversation with him. By the way, I checked the podium afterwards, Kevin, to make sure he hadn't pounded a hole through it. I don't know if you could catch that on the audio, but he is a very passionate individual. Maybe one of my favorite coaches, I think, possibly to hear from. Because he really gets into it, and he was pounding that podium, man. He was fired up. So that you love to see that type of energy from him. So next we have an exclusive interview with the director of sports nutrition for Kansas football, Katie O'Connor. Again, she's somebody that probably you wouldn't recognize as having a big impact if you're just on the outside, but does a lot, I think, for this team in a lot of different ways. And Kevin had a chance to sit down and talk with her. Here's everything that Katie O'Connor had to say.
First of all, what's just the general process of building out a nutrition plan for somebody? Because you have guys who have to put on weight. You have guys who have to lose body fat. You have guys who need to do both. And what's the process behind that?
Yeah, so right when they come in, we kind of meet with them to kind of figure out what's going on. Have they ever had to lose weight? Have they ever had to try and gain weight? Whether they're a transfer, whether they're coming in from high school. And it really is understanding kind of where they're coming from, even like their background in terms of what they're eating at home. Then we kind of take into account what kind of training plan they're on here. We work really closely with our strength staff. They're amazing. Coach Sleeve. We meet almost every day to kind of discuss what kind of plan they're on, whether it be in the off season, obviously trying to maintain and gain lean muscle mass, but then whether or not we're in spring ball or even fall camp where we're practicing, lifting, we're running around, their calories expenditure is through the roof. Yeah. So it kind of depends on what kind of season we're in, but that's where we start. And then we kind of look at, okay, are they kind of new to nutrition where we can kind of educate them, walk them through the line at meals? Or are they a 4th year, maybe 5th year guy that they've already dialed in everything, and we can kind of actually sit down, go through a meal plan. We have a software where I can plug in literally everything they need to eat. Their body fat percentage plays a role in that, because that will kind of give us an idea of how much food they need to eat. But that's kind of where we start.
How often do you see somebody who's actually fairly later in their career, but the light kind of comes on? A guy I'm thinking about is Dean Miller. Talked so much about how important his nutrition was and being able to keep weight on it and all that. How often do you see that maybe a little bit later, even in the process, where that's sort of the last thing that they hit that really helps lead them to success?
Yeah, I mean, 2 guys kind of come to mind, Dean Miller and Daniel Heishaw. I mean, like, they're both older guys, but within the past year, they've both made huge strides in the nutrition process. And I think when you really kind of meet them where they're at, instead of always harping on for Dean especially, you need to gain weight, we need you bigger. But I mean, really meeting them where they're at and really showing them that it's not hard to look at it day to day. It's really hard to look at, okay, I need to put on 25 pounds. But if you kind of be consistent, build the routines, and help them as much as you can, just as the days go on and they stack days, I think that's kind of what helps, and the consistency is going to help them kind of maintain that too.
What was the routine for Dean? Because it felt like when he wasn't at practice, he was eating.
No, yeah, Dean, I mean, he's always eating. Just the other day, I asked him how much he thought he was eating, and he said 6,000 calories. And I was like, all right, I want you to send me everything you eat, everything you put in your body, send it to me. I don't care if it's a Gatorade or like a bag of Cheez-Its, And I plugged it in, I mean, it was 8,000 calories plus. So, I mean, he's eating, and like some of those guys just need more calories. Like, he's a guy who loses a lot of sweat at practice. So that only is going to add on to the amount of food he needs to eat and hydrate with throughout the day.
How does it make you feel to see somebody like Jalen Todd not just have results, but kind of the instant results that he had?
Yeah, I mean, JT came in and just went to work. I mean, he was always in the building. He kind of came from a place where he was just kind of maintaining. Like, he really didn't have to try to be where he was at. And when he got here, I think the amount of food we feed the guys, the amount of resources we do have within our football program, that just kind of sets people up like that for success. And I mean, he's still making progress, putting on muscle mass every single time we test body comps.
With high school guys coming in, do you occasionally see guys who are coming off food insecurity or maybe not having sort of 3 square meals a day? And how do you account for that?
Of course. I mean, the good thing is when they get immersed into like an elite level program where the training is in line, we have great recovery resources, we have greater access to food as they probably did when they were in high school. It only kind of speeds up their process. And I think that's kind of what happened with Jalen was we had a lot of food, he ate it, he was training really, really hard, he was recovering harder, and it kind of worked out that way. But we have guys like Adrian Hawley, Malachi Crevet, like they're kind of going through the same thing, is they're gaining a lot of weight real fast. And but the good part is because they're training hard and they're doing all the right things, it's paying off.
When you look at guys with results like Jalen Todd, he can see the process pretty quickly working for him. For some people, it's not going to be as quick. How do you kind of encourage them to stay on that track when maybe it's not immediately apparent that it's paying off for them?
Yeah, nutrition is one of those things where unfortunately it is something that you're going to have to wait for. Like, you could do the right thing for months and you might see very minuscule differences in either the way you look or your performance. And we kind of always have to remind guys like that. And it's not always easy. And sometimes it's not just an upward hill and it's kind of, you're going to dip down. But again, that kind of comes back to, we really try and work with them every single day. We have so many different contact points, and that's why we have a lot of data on them as well with the strength staff to make sure that even though maybe their body isn't changing, but maybe they're getting really fast, or maybe their like strength is going up. So there's a lot of different things that we look at rather than just body weights or just physical appearance.
You guys also do the cooking classes with them,
yeah.
Right? Which I think is kind of a cool deal. Is there a favorite meal of the players that they really seem to attach to going through that?
I'd say the hibachi. I think that's always a fun one. I mean, and it's always a lot of food too, so it's fun that they can kind of go through the process, work with their teammates, kind of problem solve the recipe, but then they also get to take a lot of food home too. So I think they enjoy that.
For just you brought up Holly as a guy. He just got here. What can you take me through sort of what his meal plan would be?
I mean, if you look at Adrian's plates, they're just like mounds of food. I think he's just a guy that has a bottomless pit, and he can put down some food, and that's kind of working for him. I mean, but sometimes with those guys for his position, he's already, I think, put on about 20 pounds. So when you think about it, we might need to actually slow him down a little bit down the road. But then we always have something to work on where right now we're trying to get his weight up and make sure it's muscle, but down the line, we're going to have to make sure that the choices and the quality of food is going to reflect kind of where we want his body to kind of look.
That was going to kind of be my last question was, it seems like a defensive tackle in particular, or on the offensive line, KU will bring in guys who, they're 250 or 260 pounds. They need to get over 300. What's that process getting them up there and then also maintaining them at a spot where it's healthy and good for them to be explosive athletes?
Yep. So, I mean, someone that comes to mind, Carter Laversky, came in the summer and he's put on, I believe, almost 40 pounds. So, I mean, thankfully for him, he kind of had like somewhat of a good diet, but we really do focus on education. And again, with the strength staff, their programming, like it's hard to just put on fat when you're gaining weight here, especially because we're always focusing on high protein, really lean starches, and that's kind of reflected in the meals we feed them as well. So kind of maintaining the weight it might be hard for them, but I think it's a lot easier than they think it is.
That was Kevin speaking with Katie O'Connor, an exclusive interview. Great to hear from her and some really interesting insights into how this program builds players up, how this program helps players maintain that weight. That's such a big impact. That's really something that I think in the modern era of sports has taken such a huge leap forward in winning on the margins, right? It's become so much more than just X's and O's and things like that. It's there's ways you can win on the margins, and I think that's a great example of that. So really appreciate Katie for her time and giving us a little bit of an insight there. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a chance to hear from some of the players themselves, including Gage Keys, Tommy Dunn, and Kenean Caldwell. That's coming up on the other side.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
This is the Paid Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer, here with Kevin Flaherty. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe on our audio, Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube at Kansas Jayhawks KCSN. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, leave us a 5-star rating and review. We may read it here on the show. You can also reach us on social media. Kevin is at KFlahertyKCSN. I'm at Nick Springer29. You can also follow our podcast account at PayHeatKCSN. Interact there as well. So tons of ways to stay in contact with the show. Let's get a chance to hear from some of the players themselves. And I wanted to start with Tommy Dunn, who has been a guy that we've talked about earlier in the show. Has been around this program for multiple years. He's a senior. He's coming into his final season of college football with Kansas. And he kind of reflected on that a little bit about where he wants to go, what he wants to do. Here's everything that Tommy Dunn had to say.
Having Gage back, what's that like?
Great. I miss Gage. Me and Gage, we had he was my roommate when we had on game days. Me and Gage came close on game days because we also talk about like what we finna do that game, like what we finna have. So it was nice seeing him back because when he told me he was coming back, I was excited. I was excited to see him the first time, but I love Gage. It's my guy.
Coach Panagos was talking about the fact that when Gage went in the portal, some of you guys went to him saying, "Hey, can we bring him back?"
Yeah.
I guess what's that conversation like? Because that's not something we've heard about before.
I just told him, I was like, we really didn't have that conversation. It was really just Gage. He contacted us. We was like, yeah, come back. But he told Coach, and Coach didn't even tell us because we automatically want Gage back. He's just like Gage just showed up, and we was like, yeah. So it wasn't really a conversation because we wanted Gage. Coach P know we wanted Gage.
Tommy, Coach Panagos talked about how deep and competitive your guys' group is. Just talk about that and how much it pushes you guys.
Very competitive, very deep room. It's like six, 7 of us, and we all competing for a spot. We all balling. We all trying to get to the ball. It makes you better. Like when other guys push you, you know what I'm saying? You worry about your spot getting taken. That's what makes you work even harder because the guy working hard for you.
He said one of the guys that's really pushing everybody is Blake Harrell. What have you seen from Blake?
Blake, He grew up a lot. So Blake used to be a freshman, sophomore, and he experienced now. Like he been out there on the field, and Blake he's getting stronger, faster. Blake gonna be one-on-ones for sure, and he makes us all better. You know what I'm saying? He becoming a leader. He's turning into a leader slowly. He lead us because when we leave, me and DJ, he gonna be the one to step up.
You mentioned domination, and Coach Panagos talked about. What exactly does that look like?
Just being in the picture every play, knocking off pullers, getting the quarterback phase as much as I can, sacks, QB hurries, like just being disruptive, like making the running back go a different way. He was supposed to go that way. I need to be in the backfield every play. Like, all of us though, not just me, all of us, it's the team.
Biggest difference, you have a new coordinator for the first. Actually, I guess you were technically here for the whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First coordinator change since you've been playing.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between?
Totally big difference. I feel like Coach DK gives us a lot of freedom to like make plays and do that. So he trusts us, so we trust him. So we just got to execute. That's the big difference.
How soon did you feel that trust from DK?
Instantly when he first practice for real. When we walked through the defense, that's when I felt that trust because we the guys returning. We the older guys now. We're the most experienced guys, so the trust is going to be on us, so we just got to execute.
When you mentioned freedom, I guess, how does that show up? Maybe it's formationally, maybe it's mindset. When you feel that freedom, what does it do for you?
Freedom, like, as in, like, one-on-one. It's like, you can go this way, you can go that way, you can work any move. That's what I meant by freedom. Like, you can, like, just make a play. It's no thinking in our defense. That's the biggest thing.
Sorry if you already asked about this earlier, but what was your reaction to Gage coming back?
Happy. I love Gage. Like I said, he used to be my roommate every game day in the hotels. We used to chop it up. I became very close to Gage. I was very sad he left, but I'm extremely happy that he came back.
Do you see a difference in him since his return?
Yes, big difference. Gage is much more positive, optimistic. He even like practice 11. He's still like smiling, getting guys up, making sure guys on their stuff. He always makes sure I recover, make sure my body's straight. He always looking out for people. That's what I respect about Gage.
Do you feel like Coach Panagos was all in on bringing him back? Did you feel like you had to do any convincing? Or?
Well, yeah, because he left. I know Coach P was definitely a little shaky, but yeah, I'm glad he came back.
Coach Panagos said that he's maybe the hardest on you and DJ on the team. How do you see that? How do you feel that? And is that because he knows you guys can be the dominant players that you can be?
Literally, that's all it is. We just we haven't really showed a full season of straight domination. So that's why it's our last season. So that's why it's hard on us because you see the potential. We got to see it as well.
Is there anything specific that you're doing to kind of take your game to the next level?
Literally just being consistent. Literally get off the ball every play. Literally being in the backfield. Literally every play. Every play. That's my mindset. Every play. Everybody mindset. Every play. That's the only way.
That was Tommy Dunn speaking with the media earlier last week about his progress and where he wants to go in his final season with Kansas. Next is Gage Keys. And I mentioned earlier in the show, I thought Gage Keys was incredibly candid with some of the things he said about the process of transferring from Kansas and the process of wanting to come back to Kansas. So some really, really great insights from Gage Keys. Here's what he had to say when speaking with the media.
First question is, how's it feel to be back at KU?
I feel really good. It's great to be around all the guys, all the coaching staff, support staff, everybody. They've been very welcoming, so it's been good to be back for sure.
When you entered the portal, was KU the first call you made?
Yeah, most definitely. I already had previous relationships with everybody, especially the guys on the D-line, so it's kind of a no-brainer for me. I felt like I hadn't been missing them a lot the past year, and I had a really good time my first time here, so that was kind of easy decision for me.
How does it feel?
It definitely feels good. We were really close when I was here before, and so that's one thing that really I'm very excited to get back with them, and it feels good obviously to be wanted back by your peers. So yeah, that just definitely was another thing that helped out with the decision for sure.
Was there any concern that maybe they wouldn't want you back?
Not necessarily, just because when I was leaving, I left on a good note with them guys. I always have coached them up throughout the season. I talk to the guys, watch their games and stuff, and just give them little pointers, things they could do better to help them, have success at the end of the day. And so that was another reason, just being able to help those guys out was a big reason for my purpose, trying to come back. So.
Coach Panagos mentioned that you guys had a phone call. He was pretty direct, I guess, in that phone call. What do you remember just from that
You
conversation?
know, he was just like, I'm going to have to earn everything back. You know, I'm not starting off kind of where I left off at the end of the season when I was here. I was starting all that stuff. He's like, you're just going to have to start at ground zero, work your way back up, which is perfect because I wouldn't want it any other way. You know, it's a great room with a lot of competition. So we've just been having fun, embracing the process together.
What has that been like so far this spring, working your way up?
It's been really good, you know. It's been fun, you know. Like, it's a different defense with DK being the coordinator, so we've gotten a lot of different looks, and it's been really fun because we kind of all have our different areas that we're good at in certain things. So it's very good for us just to maximize our potential as a group.
Gage, when you say that different looks are different with DK, what are some of the things that are different?
So, you know, there's certain packages we'll have 3 D tackles in, some of them will have 2, you know, and that just gives us a lot of different versatility, gives us a lot of one-on-ones across the line, gives us opportunities to win more interiorly, which is very good because I feel like that's the strength of the defense so far, so it's been good with him.
What have your impressions been of DK?
I like him a lot. He's very high energy, he's very direct. Like, he's going to tell you if you're doing something wrong, he's going to tell you, he's going to address it, then we'll move on. You know, he's a guy that he has a lot of respect for us as players, and we got a lot of respect for him as a coach, so it's been good having him so far.
Gage, how much you've known Panagos since Minnesota? How much was the relationship with him a factor in coming back?
It's definitely a big factor. You know, whenever you have somebody that you can trust and that you know like cares about you outside of just football and like really wants you to succeed in life too, like it makes it very easy to be able to trust him and want to work with him again. So that was definitely a big reason why.
You've been away, you've come back. Tell me what you think about the strengths of the defensive tackle group.
I think this is really the deepest group I've ever been a part of, probably the most talented group I've ever been a part of at all the schools I've been at. You know, they've grown so much since I was here the first time, which is really beautiful to see. And now it's like a group of vets where it's like everybody's interchangeable. Anybody on the D-line right now can start. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, we all just kind of pushing each other, which has been really good.
Having spent a year elsewhere and coming back, how has that changed your perspective on the KU program?
It's definitely a change of perspective. You know, last year I definitely was thinking about that a lot throughout the year, even when I had just first left, like January. The whole year I was thinking about it, just like the values, the different things that we do here, like the culture, how everybody is kind of in it for each other. Everybody wants to win so that we all have success. You know, that's something that I didn't really feel at some of the other places I've been, which is like, it's tough to navigate that type of thing, and you don't really like understand it until it actually happens. And being in different situations, you know, you learn a lot about like what makes teams great, what makes you go, you know. And so I've found like a really deep purpose playing hard for the guys in the room because we're so close as a unit and we all want each other to have success. So I just would really commend the culture here is big. I mean, that's a big reason I wanted to come back, you know. Being a part of something special that's bigger than myself. So.
When you tweeted you were coming back, you said, "My fault, I was tripping." And
yeah.
I think the KU fans received that pretty well. What made you want to kind of word it in that way?
Because, like, honestly, like, I mean, like, really, like, just being honest, like, just a lot of the reasons I was leaving, things that have to do with the new era of college football, you know, NIL, things like that. And so, like, being able to make the mistake of being materialistic in a way, making a decision that impact me, and then realizing that, like, life is not about those type of things as much, definitely was, like, a big, like, learning for me. And I've learned a lot, really, the last year, just being able to go through all that. So I definitely, like, I regretted my decision to leave just because of how much I love it here and how close I am with everybody and how well I was, like, playing towards the end. So it's like now I get a chance to, like, come back and, like, redo it and kind of, like, leave on a good note and make sure I do it the right way this time. So.
And finally, a guy that Kevin mentioned earlier in the show is somebody that has really been through a lot and worked his way through this program, and is somebody that I'm excited to have a chance to contribute this season. That's Kenean Caldwell. He's always been a great interview in his over the years at Kansas, and here's what he had to say about what he's been through so far in his career and what he expects from himself and this team in 2025.
Spring going good. It's my last spring, and I wanted to make it special, and it's been going good with the guys coming back. And I had to come back for Tommy and DJ and Gage and teach Marcus and Blake on how to elevate afterwards.
Coach Panagos was kind of talking about how important it is for the senior players in the room to kind of lead the team and have big senior years. How much of that do you feel, you know, in terms of needing to be a leader this year?
After the season, I knew I had to step up in my leadership. Most of my career here, I was more of a quiet guy, but lead by example type of guy, but being more vocal. And that's why I took the step in, being more vocal, showing the guys on teaching the ropes, teaching Jason, teaching Grady still, and a lot of guys on what it takes to be a leader in this program.
We've heard about your own development. When you think about your growth since Coach Leipold got here, I mean, it's crazy to think about how much you've really developed and changed your body and all of that stuff. And now you're heading into your last season. Does it feel crazy to think back of how much has actually changed?
Yeah, a lot has changed. Going on 6 years being here, a lot has changed, and a lot of maturing I had to do mentally and physically. But yeah, a lot has changed, and it just helping me get better as a person and as a player.
We've heard from Coach Panagos that you've had a really good start to spring. What do you think you've been doing well since practice started?
Getting in the film room, looking at studying film, what I had to do from the different this year from what I had done the past couple years playing, and obviously staying in the weight room, getting extra work, and taking care of my body, eating right, getting treatment.
Coach Panagos said you guys as a D tackle room, when Gage went in the portal, went to him and said, "Hey, Gage is available." You know, when you saw that Gage was back in the portal, what was kind of your own reaction?
I was glad he was back. I was like, dang, I low-key miss Gage. He brought a cool vibe to D tackle room, and it was like, dang, I miss Gage, and for him to come back and we still got that same chemistry together, it's special. It's real special.
I think CT last year said he was still talking to Gage a little bit while he was at Auburn. Did you keep much contact?
Yeah, we kept in contact with each other while he was at Auburn.
That's cool.
How about just the D-tackle room as a whole, especially with Tommy and DJ and yourself? I mean, you guys have a veteran group, one of the more veteran position groups on the team. Kind of what's that been like, and what sort of leadership you guys provide to the whole
team? The leadership we provide is be yourself, but also you can be yourself, but also pay attention to the details. The details matter here in this program. 1% better to get better every day.
You mentioned Marcus and Blake. I mean, are you guys, the returners, the veterans, you're able to show that? I mean, any conversations you've had with them, kind of bring them up?
Yeah, they ask me for questions, and Marcus all the time, and Blake always asking questions. I teach them, I show them how to do this, and it shows in practice every day that they're getting better on a pass rush, run game. Everything they do is getting better, and they take it one step every time.
And Tommy and DJ, like last year didn't go as you guys had hoped. Like, what kind of motivation has that been like in the offseason now this spring?
Finish. That's our motivation. We said we're just gonna finish the job this year.
How excited are you for the new stadium?
Very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah, you drive by, juices get flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting there like, I always be picturing myself like just sitting there, close my eyes, and vision myself playing, making plays. Yeah. That's all I do.
I think it was Emmanuel Henderson who said that he's envisioning getting the first touchdown at the new booth. I assume you've had the same envision. You want to get the first touchdown, right? Why not?
Oh, yeah. Big guys got to get a touchdown in the new stadium. I want to be the first one.
How cool would that be?
Oh, that'd be special. It'd be very special.
You came into like a two-gap system up front, and there was a shift to a one gap with the coaching change. For somebody who maybe doesn't understand how different that is for a defensive tackle, what was that like, and how did you have to kind of change your body like for the new role?
It was a big adjustment. When I came here, it was more of a two gap. I had to build my body up to take on a lot of double teams, just take on a lot of people for my teammates to make plays. Now with the switch, I had to change my body around to get more leaner, more faster. That way, the defense was able for us to make more plays up front for ourselves.
It seemed like the guys got really excited when you made plays last year, and how nice is that to have a room that kind of supports everybody and backs everybody up like that?
It's very exciting. I always thought to myself I just want to make a play, and then all of a sudden I had my very first big play on blocking a field goal against Arizona State, and I saw them all excited for me, and it was like, okay, yeah, I love the support we got here now.
Coach McDonald, I remember, said a couple weeks ago that he's never coached a good defense that didn't have a great front line, essentially. Mm-hmm. How can you guys help the linebackers, the secondary, especially since, again, you do have that veteran spot and there's going to be a lot of new guys?
For us, it's just put the pressure on us. We the more experienced group up front, and think about football, it all leads up front. So if you and you got a well-veteran defensive line up there, you're going to have a great defense. Just put the pressure on us, and we take care of things up front, because that's what good defense starts at.
Coach Panagos talked about you ending the year on a high note. Was the Baylor game one of like your higher graded games of the year, and do you feel like that helped you enter the offseason with some momentum?
Yeah, it did. After the Baylor game, I just studied the film. I was like, okay, made tackle here, made play here, set the edge here. I was like, okay, I see myself making plays, and after the game, it really gave me some motivation to go into this year a lot harder, train harder, and study the playbook, get in with Coach Panagos, and find ways for me and help the other D tackles become great in this defense, so we can end on a high note.
That was Kenean Caldwell speaking with the media as well about his journey and what he expects more going forward for Kansas in 2025. And that's going to wrap it up for our position breakdown for this week, talking defensive tackles, a room that's, needless to say, we are bullish about. Kevin saying emphatically that this is the best position group on the team right now. Obviously, it's spring, so there's plenty of time until the season kicks off, but certainly this is a group that we're excited about with the combination that they have of experienced players, of guys pushing from behind, and a really strong rotation as well. So, as always, thanks so much for tuning in for this edition of the show. And if you haven't already, again, listen, just like Jim Panagos, I'm pounding the table. Subscribe on our Apple and Spotify. Subscribe on our YouTube channel at Kansas Jayhawks KCSN. Thanks so much if you have already done so. Like the channel, drop a comment, interact with us. We love hearing from KU fans and getting your insights and your thoughts as well. We really appreciate that so much. And like I said, we will be talking about some KU basketball portal stuff coming up later on in the week as they exit a dead period, as Kansas still looks to fill some more roles. I think people are really excited about where this Kansas team is at right now after what happened over the weekend with Flory and the 2 transfer commits, but still more work to be done for this Kansas team in the portal. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the week. If you do want to hear some more insights about some of that news from over the weekend, I highly encourage you to go check out our previous shows. You can find those on our audio feed and on our YouTube channel, talking Flory, talking Jaden Dawson, and Trey White as well. So be sure to check those out if you haven't already. But until next time, he's Kevin Flaherty. I'm Nick Springer. We'll talk to you again soon. See ya.